just wish Democrats would just say, look, God damn it, we got swagger here. We got some strong candidates coming. We got a hell of an issue in this big, beautiful bill. We're going to romp and kick ass in Virginia and New Jersey. Let's go get them.
Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Jessica Tarlov. Scott's off for the month of August, but don't worry, we've got an incredible lineup of guests filling in. And to kick off Scott-free August, we're starting strong with the one and only Ragin Cajun himself. Welcome to the show, James Carville. It's so great to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad we could work this out. We are going to be talking about Kamala's return to the spotlight, Trump's promises made, promises broken, and the Sydney Sweeney saga, which I'm not sure how interested you're in, but I'm going to try to make you interested in it from a culture war angle. Just when Democrats thought we could turn the page on 2024, the past is back in the spotlight. Kamala Harris is promoting a book about her short-lived presidential run and prepping for the midterms. Joe Biden is back on the speech circuit, and Hunter Biden is stirring controversy on podcasts. As the party looks for fresh leadership, its most familiar faces keep stepping forward, complicating our reset. Meanwhile, in Texas, Republicans are escalating a redistricting battle with national implications. Governor Greg Abbott is threatening to remove Democratic lawmakers who fled the state to block Trump-backed maps that could give Republicans 5 more House seats. James, how do you think we should be handling the map wars?
Well, it's really unfortunate, and I guess I'm like anybody else. Well, if you're going to do this, which is a highly unusual thing in the middle of a decade, we have to do it also. I mean, it's going to end in a pretty unfortunate place, but I don't know if there's any other answer to it. Honestly, Jessica, I'm open to any other suggestion. I think this is a really counterproductive use of the legislature's time, but what else can you do?
I mean, that's a new position, I guess. For me, a few weeks ago, I would have said, you should wait for the census to come out and we all should have voted to ban partisan gerrymandering, which is what Democrats supported in 2021. I guess a little bit worried that we can't win this one. Like Governor Newsom can add 5 seats in California, and that's what the plan looks like as of now. But Kathy Hochul in New York is saying that she wants to get involved but can't do anything until 2027. So do you feel like this is going to be what shifts the midterms potentially back to the Republicans?
Well, I think we're going to win by more than 5 seats.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty.
You're feeling good?
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine that the Democrats don't win the House back. I mean, even if they gerrymander 5 more seats, I don't think that's going to be determinative. But look, I thought Harris would win in 2024, so you have every right to be skeptical. But I don't see Democrats losing anywhere. Not any election, not any poll, not anything. I mean, I don't know whether you could argue whether it's the strength of the Democratic Party, and then probably be skeptical of that. But we got to forget, this is the most unpopular administration at this point in history that there is. The big, beautiful bill is the most unpopular piece of legislation that I can remember. I mean, this thing is severely underwater. It's just such a golden thing for Democrats to run on. Every time they get away from it, I get a little miffed of something like that's what you got right in front of you. You can talk about the issues, and there's 10 things in there that are just utterly horrific. And you see these town halls. I mean, I look at these things very closely. There might be some Democratic plants in there, but not very many. And the kind of questions they ask are not questions that a Democratic operative would put in somebody's head. They asked about detaining people and, ICE agents wearing masks. I would have said, ask about rural hospitals or ask about this. Last night in Nebraska,
yeah.
I'm sure Lincoln, there's a lot of Democrats in Lincoln, it's University of Nebraska, but a lot of stuff is organic, man. It's just people are rebelling against this, but they're going to keep going as long as they keep holding these town halls. The leadership told them not to. And this guy thought he was
Mike Flood
off. Yeah, it didn't work very well for him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit of a hat tip to him for actually showing up to do it, because he knew what was going to happen, whether there were some plants who showed up or just his regular constituents.
Maybe he knew. Maybe he was just used to being in that Nebraska district and, having everybody agree with him. I don't know. I don't know what his state of mind was.
So many have not shown up, though, so I'm glad that they did, and mostly because we got the footage of people talking about it, and there were such a range of issues, from the Epstein stuff to healthcare to your point about alligator Alcatraz and what's going on with ICE. But I guess I have a little bit of PTSD from 2024 when Donald Trump was historically unpopular as an individual, and, we felt good for 40 of the 107 days that Kamala ran.
So I blame 2024 almost exclusively on Democrats. Now, why do I do that? Because it was evident 2 years, year and a half before the election, people, A, did not want President Biden to run for re-election, and B, they wanted a change in direction. He didn't decide until July 21st. We now know that Harris was under orders from the president not to say that she would do anything different. We managed to pull this off. We gave Democrats no say-so in who their nominee would be or the direction their party would go in. And then we said on the biggest issue that the country was looking for changes, acknowledgement that we can't argue with people if they want something different. You just give them something different. And there were 1,000 things that she could have done, and she did none of them. I don't have a problem writing a book. I think in my memory, most every defeated presidential candidate goes out with writes a book. I know Hillary wrote her book, I think, and
yeah,
Mitt Romney. But it's clear this party wants to move on now. They don't. That the 2024 is just something that Democrats don't want to think about, talk about, relive. They're ready to take the next step. And that's clear as a bell.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that way. I live in New York City, and we just had our, now, I guess over a month ago, but it feels recent, our mayoral primary, where a lot of people wanted to move on with Zoran Mamdani. And I was curious if you could talk about, this is really going backwards, but how any of the lessons of the 90s and the Clinton era relates to today.
There was three things. Change versus more to say. That's our message. It's never going out of fashion. All right. Somebody a couple, 3 weeks ago asked me, James, what's new in American politics? I said, nothing. And nothing will ever be new. You either like what you got or you want something different. Then the economy's stupid, of course, that drives, how many economic reactions does a human being have in a day? I figured out I couldn't count that high. And then don't forget healthcare. But why do we have to change? But just run on that. And it's all contained in the big bad bill. If somebody gives you something, well, take it. And they giving us a simple, frame, teed up message. Let's just deliver it. We don't need a lot of hoo-ha and this and that and running around. Just talk about what's in there. We need to change this. It's putting, fat cats over ordinary working people. It's putting people that already have it made and hurting people who are trying to make it. You could just give 1,000 alliterations of the same message. We don't need anything new. Keep those three things.
Okay, well, what do we do about all the stuff that keeps popping up then? We have this moment, right? We have Democrats on the proverbial lamb, right? They're in Illinois and New York because of the redistricting. That's eating up the cycle. You have Epstein.
The redistricting stuff is unfortunate, but I won't have any other choice. And I think at some point people have a basic sense of fairness. I don't think I didn't see any polling on it, but I don't think this Texas move is going to be very.
Well, it's definitely not. Democrats are totally where you are. That, they say just fight fire with fire. Mitch McConnell did this to us.
We would rather not do this, but as long as there's a 3-point line, we're going to shoot 3 points.
Yeah.
Whatever. But, I would much prefer to talk about how we can get wages up. I would much prefer to talk about how we can, make rural health care better and improve rural hospitals. But unfortunately, I have to deal with this in the meantime. do it, but don't act like there are other things that you would rather be doing and that they're almost forcing you to do this. It's just in the element of basic fairness. I mean, the Epstein stuff, it doesn't take a lot to keep it going. There's questions everywhere. Can't we finally get some answers? All we get is stonewalling and prison transfers and the House going out of session so they couldn't subpoena the records. Why don't this, there's so much we don't know. Why don't we get some answers out of here? Let's ask them. And then, this is a giant distraction and go back to your message. But it's kind of hard to tell people don't talk about a guy who either hung himself or was hung in a jail cell, and you had underage women all over the place, and you had a British socialite in the middle of it, and God knows everything. I mean, how do you not talk about that? You just can't.
No, it's definitely
It's
made for
impossible.
TV kind of stuff. Are you?
Yeah, that's easy to understand. And it also comports in the reason that, and it fits on what a lot of people on the right say. There's this giant cabal of coastal elites that are harvesting these young females. You know, you got to give them credit. They were 2/3 right. It just they got the coastal elite wrong, but there was a bunch of coastal elites, international coastal elites, I guess I'd call them, who were grooming and harvesting young women. That's true. It wasn't being done in Comet Pizza.
With Hillary standing at the front of the store.
Yeah. You got the wrong guy, the wrong person.
I understand that the tide would be going in our direction. And historically, that's just what's going to happen anyway with midterms. But we've spent a lot of time thinking about the way that we message and who the right messengers are. And if you're on social media and whether your videos look good and are you using the right font and filter. How are you feeling about the way that I guess the Democrats are presenting? Because our approval rating is absolutely abysmal. I happen to think it's because we're not fighting hard enough. It's not because people actually hate the party or think that we don't stand for the right things.
So people belong to a political party because they want to win elections. That's what a political party is supposed to do. We lost. People are not happy. I don't have a positive image of the Democratic Party. Okay, the title of my documentary is "Winning is Everything, Stupid." You didn't win. Period. Okay, end the case. I don't think people are prepared for what's getting ready to happen in Virginia. It's one thing to know that somebody's going to win an election and the other side knows they're going to lose. When the magnitude of this defeat is real, it's going to change a lot of things. And the image of the Democratic Party will go up some because they'll watch Spanberger and they'll watch Cheryl on election night and they'll go, God, yeah, we win it. Great. Go team, go. This is why I am a real kind of optimist going forward if we get to forward. This is the most talented potential group of presidential candidates in the history of American politics. Understand, not in this century, not compared to this. If I took the talent level of all of the potential candidates, and I think a lot of them are going to run. To the extent they asked me, I said, man, run, get out there. And when people see, and Democrats see, you mean we got somebody that can string a sentence together? I didn't know that. We got somebody that can frame a thought. Gee whiz, look at this. Come see, Martha. Look at this guy. Or look at her. And look at that. Then you're going to see something. But it takes a little trust and a little forward thinking and say, well, we're going to win in Virginia and New Jersey. We are. We are going to win in 2026. We will. I happen to think the Senate is more in play than most people do, but it's a reasonable thing to assume that we can't win the Senate back. And I think the talent level in our party at the potential presidential level is as high as it's been in American history.
I love that.
And it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to see it. The other thing that 2028 will do is it'll settle. You know, people say Mandani, the party needs to be more progressive. You know, there are more people that live in New Jersey and Virginia that live in New York City. Now, you would never know that. All right. But there are. And the primary voters are going to decide direction of the party. And that's the way it should be. And they're going to have a healthy array of candidates to pick where they want to go in the direction of the person they want. And I think that they're going to do it very wisely. I'm very, very convinced of that.
We're in the midst of, and I know in your op-ed, you said this is a civilized civil war, but we have to delay it. Can you expound on that a bit more for me? Because it's hard. I mean, maybe just because I work in TV and everything feels immediate and you get asked questions like this constantly. Like, what does Mamdani mean for the future of the party? What is AOC getting more small dollar donations than any other candidate? And it's all over the state, right? There are people in Buffalo that like AOC and people in Queens that like AOC. And I think that does say something about where the party is.
Younger, more progressive people say it's their turn. The old people need to get out of the way. The future is now. Good, run. And if you get the authority of winning the nomination behind you, then you've made your point. But I don't really count how many people you get in Idaho or how many overnight contributions you get. I mean, it's a sign of energy. It's a sign that people are there. But, Jessica, the Democratic Party has never nominated the most left candidate in a race. And I don't think it's going to happen. Now, most people don't know the process for selecting a Democratic presidential candidate. Let me explain it to you in 2 words. Southern blacks, okay? That's where that when we had lost New Hampshire, okay, we didn't run in Iowa. Other people had lost. Biden, he wasn't even scratching. Even Nevada, New Hampshire, whatever. And then one day, Jim Clyburn dropped the hammer, and the whole process was over. My birth and my politics and my region, I happen to know Southern blacks better than most Caucasian consultants. And I got news for you, they're not all that liberal.
Yeah.
Like Clyburn said, the most conservative person I ever knew in my life was my daddy. And they're going to come down and bring in a lot of that stuff in rural South Carolina, Georgia, the Mississippi Delta, and I don't think it's going to go over that big. I really don't.
There is a push within the party to try to change that level of influence, though. And I mean, you still see everyone's showing up and wearing their Clyburn T-shirts, and Andy Bashir, is out there. And I think really putting himself onto the main stage in a different way than when he was auditioning to be Kamala's VP back in the summer of 2024. But so you see nothing's going to change. It's been Southern blacks, and it's going to continue to be Southern blacks. And
that's not going to change between now and 2028. And by the way, I don't want to change. They do a very good job.
Yeah.
You get a very thoughtful job of voting. And I don't think the appetite would be in the party to diminish the influence that Southern blacks have in Democratic primaries. I really don't. I'm satisfied with that. However you draw it up, somebody's going to have some more influence. Now in Iowa, we don't do that anymore. Let's see what happens in New Hampshire. But it's all roads lead through the South.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us.
Support for the show comes from LinkedIn. As a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that grinds just as hard as you do. That hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. It makes it easy to get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. LinkedIn can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. Either post your job for free or pay to promote, and promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified applicants. You can let your network know you're hiring and add a hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture and get 2 times more qualified candidates. Based on LinkedIn data, 72% of SMBs using the platform say that LinkedIn helps them find high-quality candidates. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prof. That's linkedin.com/prof to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Donald Trump loves to make big promises, but lately he's coming up short. He pledged to expand access to IVF after his Supreme Court picks helped overturn Roe v. Wade. But the White House now saying there's no plan to require insurance coverage or federal funding for fertility treatments. On immigration, Trump advisor Stephen Miller publicly set a target of 3,000 arrests per day. But in court, the DOJ denies the quota ever existed. And we've already talked about this a little bit, but despite Trump's history with Jeffrey Epstein and public pressure for transparency, the long-promised Epstein files remain largely sealed. Ghislaine Maxwell is in a cushier prison as of now. And we're kind of asking what happens when the promises don't match the policy. Do you think, I mean, I know you had your 3-point plan. It hasn't changed. I love that. It's consistent. It's easy. We're always asking people, like, just give us our 3-point plan. And now we can say we have the Carville plan that has got us wins for decades. But do you give any stock to the idea that broken promises actually affects Trump's base?
I wouldn't call it broken promises.
Oh, okay.
I would say he's done. Look, he told you that he was going to cut taxes on rich people. He cut taxes on rich people. He told you that he wanted to, Project 2025 wanted to dismantle the VA. They're dismantling the VA. They told you they wanted to close rural hospitals. They're closing rural hospitals. Argue that he's powerful and he's successful. Don't argue broken promises. And by and large, they're doing what Russell Boyd's most powerful person been in the federal government for a long time. I wouldn't spend my time. Now, the broken promise is that it'd be transparent in the Epstein case, anything but that. You could always throw something in. But I wouldn't argue broken promises. I'd argue bad results, really bad.
In that op-ed that I cited earlier, you said we have to go out there and say we want to repeal absolutely every piece of legend. That's the way forward.
Yes. I mean, look at the horror of it. Now, it's $4.1 trillion in debt. They just recalculated it. And I'm sorry, you never want to predict economic times, bad, good. Trump's numbers on the economy are terrible, as are his numbers on cost of living. It's another thing I'm saying. Never use the word inflation. Always talk about cost of living. Always.
Yeah. That would have been nice if we talked about that in 2024, I guess.
It could, and she could have said, we're going to do the following things, because we know that families, instead of saying, it's not what you think it is, we've actually created X number of jobs, just giving people something to cling on that, hey, I see something going on out there, I'm going to change something to meet the moment. We would have won. If we'd have had an open process, we'd have gotten 53% in 2024. That we'd force that result on ourselves.
Do you have any insight into what actually happened within the Biden camp, which obviously seemed to be very, very insular? And then going back to what I brought up before, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are showing up again at a moment where we feel like we need to shed skin, right? That we need to become something new. And it's a reminder that people did feel betrayed by the Democratic Party and that they were looking to us to save them, essentially, from having to go back to Donald Trump. And to your point, that we kind of force them into his bucket again.
Biden's inner circle was, we won this. We beat Donald Trump. No one else could do this. We let this country out of the pandemic into a lot of areas, unprecedented prosperity, and we never get any respect. The Clinton people think they reinvented the goddamn wheel. The Obama people are arrogant and didn't return my phone calls when I was vice president. And, they'll, because we Irish guys and, grew up in Scranton, and I think Mike grew up in Providence, the hell with all these people. They always tell us what we can't do. We don't get elite media doesn't give us the credit that we deserve, and we're going to run, goddammit, and just get out of the way. That was a big part of the mentality of the President Biden and the people around here. And then, of course, we know for a fact all these elaborate mechanisms you had to go through to even get something in front of President Biden. You're not allowed to talk to him about it. I'm pretty sure that's a large part of what happened. And then when it was just inevitable that they couldn't go on, they told Harris, we know this for a fact, well, you can't do anything different. We did. You keep the same campaign manager, the same headquarters, the same artwork on the wall, the same phone number. Don't say you can do anything different. It's like, well, it's designed. We had to do 5 really stupid things to lose, and we probably did all 5 of them.
For 2016, there was a moment that you could isolate on the chart, the Comey letter, right, where Hillary was going to lose 11 days out. The interview on The View, where Kamala came on and they asked her explicitly, what would you do different? And she was there to roll out a policy that was distinct from the Biden administration for people who receive Medicaid, that you could get care in-home for your parents. You want to talk about the sandwich generation. It was a good policy, right? And now that we're talking about healthcare, it would have been even better.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. Yeah. The work that we have done, for example, capping the cost of insulin at $35 a month for our seniors is something I care deeply about allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Yes. And bring the cost of prescription medication down for seniors, but my intention is to expand that for all Americans.
Mm-hmm. I think, and I thought that she did a great job with the hand that she was dealt, more or less, but she wasn't dexterous enough to find a way to be conciliatory.
She wasn't dealt a hand, she was dealt a straitjacket. You can run, but this is what you got to say. All right. And that moment, I think the people on The View, I know I read this, they like a gas that she gave that answer, like they wanted to try to...
Audible gasps. And then...
Yeah, audible gasps. I mean, you didn't have to be an experienced political operative to know, oh, God, she didn't just say that, did she? Yeah, she did. She did.
I work in conservative media, so they're always playing, tape of the word salads and her being embarrassing or whatever. But, it was about Donald Trump, the election, just with everything. He's larger than life. He eats up all the air in the room. And we didn't do good enough, I guess, in differentiating from the past.
This was a change election. People were very clear, every poll. And we decided that we weren't not going to give them that, and we almost won. Think if she just said what policy I'm doing. So, every President Obama was different, President Clinton, who was different than President Carter. And these are 3 things that I want to do going forward. Anything like that. And then you get, well, did you and the president ever disagree? And you can say, look, my counsel is, President Biden gave me the opportunity, my counsel to him is my counsel to him, not people, but I want to talk about what I'm going to do differently. You could do anything like that. Just throw any little seed to somebody and they'd have glommed onto it. But didn't even give them that.
Do you think that the Biden team really would have been vengeful about that? Because now they're floating this notion that they're going to reveal embarrassing stories about her if she comes out against him. But in your experience, do you think they really would have come after her? Because his legacy is, I don't want to say ruined, but certainly tarnished by what happened. And she was the one who could have saved it.
So if Biden gets out in September of 2023, the Democrats win. Plain and simple. That's no doubt. They had an open process and moved on to the next. President Biden would justifiably be going around the country cutting ribbons at airports and overpasses and highways, and he would be going to Europe like Grant did, and whoever the modern Bismarck is, he would be visiting them. The University of Pennsylvania Biden Center would be swimming in contributions. The new Democratic president would go there and have the ribbon cutting. Understand that. And he would have earned every bit of it. He's one of the most accomplished politicians of my lifetime.
Do you think that means that the old guard in general needs to get out of the way as well? Or this is a particular Biden-Harris problem?
I think the voters First of all, being a part of the old guard myself, will get out of the way pretty fast. You don't have to worry about it. You're talking about New York City and against an array of candidates. And by the way, Donnie really talked about the economy. That was his whole kind of thing. He's a pretty good interviewer. I got to tell you, he doesn't get out of his kind of cost of living argument, how difficult life is in the city. And I repeat again, there are more people that live in Virginia and New Jersey combined than live in New York City. So why do you automatically assume that Mondani is the future of something, but Spanberger and Sherrill are not part of the future? That's a pretty, understand, that's a very coastal, it's a very New York-centric view, but I'm not sure that that's the correct view. And but there will be a person from that wing of the coalition that's going to run in 2028. I think it's necessary that they do, so these Democratic primary voters can weigh in on the direction they want their party to go in.
I agree with you. I also think that it'll probably be a governor who ends up being the candidate. I think people will be, looking for executive experience and the kind of deliverables that you just can't get in the same way if you're in the Senate or you're in Congress. And I'm excited about it. Your line, unsurprisingly, is better than mine, but our bench is very, very deep.
Don't underestimate the Senate talent, Democratic talent. I don't get into sort picking and choosing here, but does anybody really think that Ruben Gallego is not going to be on the ticket by 2032? No. Okay. I mean, Chris Murphy is a really talented guy. Warnock is one of the better communicators I've ever seen. Of course, there's Democratic talent in governors, and there's a lot of Democratic talent in the Senate. The point I'm trying to get across here is the cavalry is coming. Okay, it's coming. It can't get here. As I said in the piece, right now, we're just all about being against the big, beautiful bill. There's no person in a Democratic coalition that doesn't detest the big, beautiful bill. It unites every Democrat. And now come the 2028 cycle, then we flush it out, but not until then.
Okay, hold our powder until then. One thing, it's an extension of the bill because there was tons of funding in it, obviously, for ICE, which now has a bigger budget than the IDF, which feels extreme to me. I'm curious, and then I will stop harping on this particular line of questioning, but I think, and again, maybe this is because I spend so much time with conservatives, that immigration will still be a major flashpoint in the conversation. It's the economy, stupid, but there are a lot of people who certainly have not forgiven Democrats for how terribly immigration was mismanaged under the Biden administration until the last year, let's say, and haven't seen a thoughtful plan for how we would be managing the border and our asylum system. How do you think that we can do a better job of that? Are there any folks, you could name names or not if you don't want to, who you feel like are doing a decent job in speaking to this? And I'm not saying to me, it's not enough to just say, we made a mistake. We have to be for strong border security and a humane process. Like, there has to be something more for people that really care about immigration. Like there was in the 90s, like Obama, like Hillary ran on as well.
Yeah, you're right. The first part of the Biden administration was a disaster. And the reason is he listened to those lefties. Okay. Remember, Bernie Sanders in 2016 was calling for open borders. Okay. That's what they were basically advocating. It turned into a policy disaster. By the end of the Biden term, border was perfectly fine. Now, that's not the greatest thing to argue. So, but the question then becomes, when you talk about immigration policy, right, we'll talk about the southern border. It will keep in place, a very orderly southern border. What about the 14 people out of here, 14 million? You could just come up with something and say, you know what, we're going to have a point system. So somebody's been in this country for 35 years, held the same job, raised 3 kids, they've all gone to college, then that person gets 10 points. Somebody's here for 3 months and they've committed 3 crimes, they get no points. And what we need to have is acknowledge that people are here. We don't need to be rating Home Depot and raiding this, but not every person that is in this country that is not documented is the same. Is varying level. We absolutely need a healthy immigration policy that has health, and we need to deal with the people that are already here. Period. End of case. Then people are going, it's not flushed out enough. What are you going to do about this? And say, look, our policy is this: we're going to have we like immigration. We like immigrants. We're going to have an orderly process to get in the table, and we're going to have an orderly process with the people that are already here. People like immigrants. They don't like disorder. You have a favorable or unfavorable opinion on immigrants, it'd be 2-to-1 favorable.
Yeah.
I want to have immigration. I want to deal with it that's here. They want to get rid of it all, and we can't do that. We don't want to. It's not in our interest. You can see his numbers on immigration are now not that good, actually. Then they're going south. What he's given is actually some level more disorder.
Yeah, well, there's a frenziedness to how this is happening.
But you just say, I got a system. I'd call it the point system. You call it whatever you want. But just tell people we want immigration and we want order. And there's no reason that we cannot have both.
I feel like we would have gotten a lot of goodwill if the Blue City mayors had played ball and handed over, criminals basically to begin. And then Stephen Miller and Trump would have looked even worse, even more quickly, frankly. But
these people are not going to school. They're scared. Even people that are here legally. I'm a housekeeper. I make her tape a passport to her rag. Because if she got to go back to Guatemala, I'm going with her.
Oh.
Yeah, but she's illegal. It's not the issue. But it's the clown in Nebraska was saying a 28-year-old who doesn't work, we're just going to give him health care. Okay, of course, the audience didn't even like that. If a 28-year-old is here illegally, the last place, were you ever 28?
Yeah.
You never thought about getting sick. The last place you're going to be is in the emergency room. All right. And particularly if you're not here legally, you die of a heart attack before you go.
It's a good point, but they have to smoke screen it, and they have to talk about the 5 able-bodied people that are on Medicaid that could be at work.
The problem with Medicaid and healthcare costs is not 28-year-olds. Some of their arguments, when you think about them, if you think about them just beyond the argument they're making, it's really stupid.
I'm always astounded by it, and I think, am I hearing the same thing other people are hearing?
Support for the show comes from Square. Square powers a lot of business that you probably frequent. Specifically, if you've ever tapped to pay and it was fast and an easy transaction, chances are it was Square. It's a tool built for the way people actually run their businesses. Whether you're selling baked goods, running a clinic, or giving music lessons, Square can help you out. It's one connected system to take payments, manage inventory, run payroll, and send invoices. You can track it all from one place. And it's not just a point of sale. Square includes hardware that works in person and on the go, plus software for managing staff, marketing, and customer insights. It also has banking tools, including Square Checking, so you get paid instantly. If you're starting a business or running one that deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/PropG. That's SQUARE.com/go/PropG. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today.
Welcome back. Before we go, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the culture wars. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this viral American Eagle campaign starring actress Sydney Sweeney. It sparked days of online debate, with some critics saying it hints at eugenics. Trump called it the hottest ad out there once he found out that Sydney Sweeney was a registered Republican in Florida. And then he's going after what he sees as woke brands like Jaguar and taking another jab at Taylor Swift. I know in the wake of the 2024 election that you weighed in a lot on the woke issues, right? How the Democratic Party stopped talking like normal human beings and was spending too much attention or was spending too much time paying attention to a very tiny percentage of the population. Do you think that we're doing any better on that front? Do you think what's going on with the Sydney Sweeney ad matters at all?
So the actual date was April 27th, 2021, when publicly said in Vox, this is killing us. The usual eruption. People do. There's so many things about it. I've said defund the police are the three stupidest words in the history of the English language. I don't like to call it the W word because it was actually kind of started by Ledbetter, who was a jazz musician from Louisiana and Texas, who brought that in a song, I think, in the 1930s, that Black people should be woke, aware in their interactions with the police. It sounded like a pretty good idea to me. Okay. Pretty smart Ledbetter was. The whole identity language was bad for the party. It was just defund the police. And basically what the identity left said, you have to look at me as a Blake first. And I can't do that. I got to look at you as a human being first. I know if you're Black or female or whatever it is that you are. But humanity is our most important identity. And the public never liked it. And think of words they say. And this is where I think that there would be a poll. The people that use the term communities of color, I actually think it's racist. And I'll tell you why. It is the assumption of educated white people that everybody that is not white is the same, which is idiotic.
Yeah.
It's idiotic to say that all white people are the same. But it's the kind of, like NPR people love this kind of language. And they don't know what they're saying. Remember when they were starting and the whole thing was going to be BIPOC, and they were just going to hoard all non-white people in the same vat, which is a historically ignorant and politically stupid thing to do. And, we didn't now, there's been a big bounce back. I mean, the non-whites, if you look at the latest data, are moving away from Trump pretty quickly. But we did not do that well with non-whites because I think a lot of that was the hangover of the identity era. You don't hear political people use this kind of language anymore. And it's just going to have to, it hurt us in 2024. It did. All kind of data on late-breaking voters, the stuff was very sticky. Melissa Slotkin was pretty articulate about it, who won a very, very close race in a state that Trump carried. So we don't need to, they just need to talk like other people, and the longer we get away from that, the less the effects are going to be. But it was one of the all-time stupid political ideas that in this century was we were going to change dictionaries in the way people spoke to each other. We were going to do no such thing.
Do you think we are doing better in this way?
I do. I don't. Do you see anybody using that kind of language anymore?
The Sydney Sweeney stuff, I think, is one of those more right-wing stories where they're taking, some people online who probably vote the same way that we do that are outraged about it and, saying it's Hitlerian, et cetera. But in general, I think we've been pretty good at being normal, which is a nice break.
Don't talk about not being part of identity politics. Just don't be part of identity politics. You don't have to say it. Just say, when I was still governor, I voted to increase this for, police forces better train, anything you want. Yeah, but we'll have to go through it and relive it. It was just a giant, stupid mistake that some well-meaning people thought it was the future of communications. And it was just really, really stupid.
Well, I'm going to tell my colleagues that I just don't want to talk about it anymore, and hopefully they'll let me off the hook.
That's what you do. It's the whole thing. If you have the law, I'll get a law. If you have the facts, I'll get a facts. If you don't either, pound the tape. Because you don't want to talk about the failure of this administration to deal with the cost of living. You don't want to talk about all of the things that they passed, from gutting veterans benefits, to rural hospitals, to you name it, and just do it like that. But they're going to keep trying to bring it up because it's their advantage to talk about it. It's not our advantage to talk about it. It was something. It was a phase, just like teenagers go through phases.
Yeah.
But that was all it is. And they always going to come back to the trends in sports. It's hadn't thought about the 400 meters in the girls' track meet, but the Athletic Association, I'm sure, has ways to determine that we have equitable competition. I know that Senator Gallego, Governor Newsom, Congressman Moulton have all said that they all have daughters and they want them to compete against other girls. That seems totally reasonable to me. State the problem, state where you are. Remember, before the pandemic, I went to Amsterdam. You know what they don't have in the Amsterdam airport? Gender-specific bathrooms. You go in the bathroom, you close the stall, you come out, you wash your hands, and you go out. And I was just kind of stunned because I'd never seen that before. It was like zero issue. The point is, the more that whenever you want to, we'll get back to the 400 meters at the girls' state track meet. But I agree with Senator Gallego, Governor Newsom, Congressman Moulton. I think that's a reasonable position.
Totally. And where 80% of the country is. So I think
Yes,
that's
the governor of Utah, they passed an anti-trans sports thing. The guy is conservative is the next guy. He's a Mormon, Latter-day Saints. He said that there are 100,000 high school athletes in Utah for trans. This is not my issue. I'm vetoing this. Send it back to the Utah State Athletic Association. Then let them deal with that. How many athletic governing bodies there are in the United States? You couldn't count them all. And I'm going to be worried about. I'm going to be concerned about how do we get people. How do we get young people motivated? Democrats should raise taxes. Raise taxes where they were pre-Trump on incomes over $500,000 a year, and use half that money, which is trillions of dollars, to establish a first-time home buyers mortgage relief fund. That means because when you're 27 or 28, and you hear people, and particularly Democrats, talking about, now it's the Republicans, they telling you how good the economy is, and they will say, "What the shit is she or he talking about? I have no hope to buy a house. I have no hope to get an education. I'm living in my parents' basement, and they got every tax break in the world, and they're telling me how good I got it? And we act like we don't see them." So when I was in law school, I got 300, understand this, every month I got a check for $300 in 1971 dollars. I could do whatever I wanted with it. I could buy books, I could go to French Quarter, anything. Okay. That was what they call a GI Bill. I buy my first house, I am guaranteed the lowest mortgage rate there is. I'm guaranteed all of that. That's what we did. Well, they don't have. I graduated from law school in 1973. There was one black and three females in the graduating class. We don't live in that world anymore. Okay? Japan and Germany, everybody, I know what a Toyota or BMW was. Well, sorry, we now know, don't we? So we got to give these young people tools that my generation of young people had. And we got to quit telling them how lucky they are to be living in this economy at this time. It's a statement that actually irritates them. It's an old rich guy's idea of like, guy started at McDonald's and he became the regional manager. Yeah, 1 out of 100,000. Most people that are sitting there for $9 an hour are not thinking they're going to be the regional manager one day. The most important thing, if I ever enough lesson, is people want to be seen. Okay, that guy sees me or she sees me. It doesn't. If you start talking about that, a young voter will say, well, at least they understand what I'm going through. And that was part of Trump's appeal with these rural whites. They didn't feel like Democrats saw them. And then Trump goes and promises a bunch of stuff, stabs in the back, of course. But he did do the first necessary thing. He said, you exist, you're out there, I see you. And we don't do that with young people very much at all. And just, understand that just acknowledging the problem with an imperfect solution is 100 times better than denying the problem.
I love that. I can't thank you enough for your time. I don't know if you have anything that you want to wrap up with, but you've said like 50 things in the last 10 minutes that
I just say this, I go on any network, I go on any show, and I think the idea that we boycott any news outlet, I can go on somebody's show and I don't have to agree with them. But I just wish Democrats would just say, look, God damn it, we got swagger here. We got some strong candidates coming. We got a hell of an issue in this big, beautiful bill. We're going to romp and kick ass in Virginia and New Jersey. Let's go get them. And when you do that, well, James, the approval rating is 31%. Well, yeah, because we lost. I don't like them either. Once you start winning, it's going to go up because what approval rating really lags is among Democrats because they don't like to lose. Okay?
no one likes to lose.
So, winning is everything, stupid.
Winning is everything, stupid. Thank you for your time. And that's it for this episode. This week, I'm talking to Mallory McMorrow, who's running to be the next senator of Michigan. And make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode.